Hi, I'm Art Bergeron, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. If you haven't seen the show before, you know that I'm an elder law attorney. I work at Myrick O'Connell, but this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen any of my presentations at the Salt Marsh or seen any of my seminars online, you know that Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if you identify with that, that's what this show is about. We have guests that deal specifically with senior issues, or in today's case, a guest that you should be interested in or whom you should be interested in, whether you're a senior or not. Everybody seems to know my co-host, Allison Forsgren. We've been doing this show now for like a long time, right? And she usually brings these guests on, and this month, this show, she's got a terrific one. Allison, whom do we have today?
Today we have our newest elected select board member, Brooke Moore. She's familiar in the community for more than just being a selectman and has been an advocate for not seniors and everybody for as long as I've known her, basically. Most recently on the battlefront of COVID vaccines, she volunteered and showed up and was super helpful in getting our population vaccinated. So welcome, Brooke. I voted for you, and I'm curious to hear what your plans are for your term. But before that, I think we have something. I think Arthur needs to say something.
Yeah, I was all excited to my one question that I get to ask. So Brooke, often my lead question is, so how did you get here? Because it seems that on Nantucket, that doesn't have kind of an obvious answer. It's like all over the map, you know. And you know, you can also talk about how you met Allison, but that's totally up to you. But the question is, so how did you get here? And why did you, the standard corny question, why did you decide to run for selectman?
So I got here in 1985. It was October, Columbus Day weekend in 1985. I had recently met my husband. Now we've been married 32 years, but at the time we had just started seeing one another, and he brought me to Nantucket for Columbus Day weekend. And we had, a typical fall weekend. We went out to Great Point, went blue fishing. I lost the bluefish. I heard about it for years after, how I lost the first bluefish I'd hooked on Nantucket. But one of my vivid memories of that weekend was a sort of magical dinner at 21 Federal when they had real fires in the fireplace. And I was hooked. He had been coming here in the summers, and we kept up that tradition, and we became homeowners here in the late 80s through 2004, raised 4 summer kids here, my 3 stepkids, and then we have a daughter together who's now almost 30. I can't even believe it. And then we left and sold our house in 2004 because our daughter was a competitive horseback rider, and it was hard to be on Nantucket during her riding season. And so, however, my stepdaughter, Lindsay Moore, who has a gardening company now, had come back after college and settled, married, started talking about having kids. And so when we were casting about for a change, we moved here full time in 2013. And now I have two of my 6 grandchildren are native Nantucketers. And
that's a great story.
Congratulations.
That's a great story. Yeah. So you've really bought in.
Totally. And the dream moving back was to have grandchildren close in this lovely community that, I could be picking them up at school and driving them to their activities, and they can come hang out with us. And that's how it is. And it's fabulous.
I talked to so many people, on Nantucket, and by the way, even on the other island, but on Nantucket, and just, it's like they're here all the time, they forget how special it is. You forget it's the community. It's the community. You come for the beach, you stay for the community, and I've heard that kind of story just so often. It's wonderful. It's why I keep coming back. I keep coming back. Oh, so I'm going to ask that last question. So why did you run for selectman?
So since I moved back or moved here full time, I have been engaged in community service and community work and serving on boards and committees. I've been on the Affordable Housing Trust for 5 years. I was the finance manager in Nantucket Looms for those first about 6.5 years we lived here, and then I retired from there. And after I retired from there, I also picked up the Council for Human Services, which had not met for a number of years. People weren't applying to be appointed, and they couldn't reach a quorum, and the committee hadn't met. And I really wanted to do something that took me back to my roots as a social worker. I have a master's in social work. And so, and of course, the intersection of human services and housing is real as well. And so that idea of living into what I know is true about Nantucket, that we take care of each other, that we have that strong sense of community, and really making that happen and doing what I can. And so I've served in those roles, and I started attending select board meetings because of my housing advocacy work. It was just important to be at the meetings because agenda items would pop up or the conversation would happen, and it was useful to be there. And I just got hooked. I became sort of a government junkie, and basically have attended every select board meeting with the exception of a handful for 4 years. And it was at a meeting in December where the conversation around short-term rentals came up, and what was the lead up to town meeting. And I realized that it was time for me to try to step into that role for larger policy decisions and where we are as a community, where we're going, and how policy, budgets all play together. And that's the moment I decided to run.
So Allison, I can see why you voted for her.
Yeah, well, I say thank you for all of the above, and for your commitment to human services. How are you going to fill that spot on your board?
So interestingly, the interest in that board, and it is the most diverse group of people serving in a board in Nantucket, which was in part because I actively recruited into the community. And when we tried to successfully brought the board back, there were, I think, a dozen applicants for 7 positions. And this last time when seats were up, there were a whole lot of applicants as well, and 2 very strong, the group is already amazing, but 2 additional community members stepped up and applied and have recently joined the board, one of whom actually served on the Council for Human Services in Greenwich, Connecticut for a number of years. And she's a person who splits her residency between Greenwich, but is increasing her time on Nantucket. And her name is Tara Risteri, and she joined the board just a couple months ago. And so I'm leaving it in strong hands, and Athlon Sweeney was my vice chair, and she and I met this week to transition the chair over to her. And of course, Jericho, Allison's son, is the director of human services, and I've just loved working with him. And now that he's sort of getting out from under the COVID work, he'll have more time to commit to the work of the council as well. So I hopefully it's been left in really solid hands. And of course, the Affordable Housing Trust is in great hands as well. So
and so who is on that board?
The Affordable Housing Trust?
Well, actually both of them, but the human services.
So you've called me out.
This is a test. That's right.
Yes. Cindy Rivera, Jocelyn Ramirez, Claudia Valle, Athlon Sweeney, Tara Risteri, Veronica Bolchik. Who am I forgetting? It was myself.
That sounds like 9.
Okay.
Or 8.
Yeah, close. And we actually were partway through the process of reducing it from 9 to 7. And I asked at town meeting last year, asked that they not go through with that. And so it's now a 9-member board. And then 2 of those members serve on the contract review committee, which allocates the town funding for human services, which is a budget this year of 650,000 for general human services and 170,000 for addiction-related treatment services under the cannabis tax revenue.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a substantial budget that gets allocated across to human service agencies.
That's a huge budget for a town of this size.
It is an
For a
unprecedented
huge
budget.
human services budget, right?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
So many community. I mean, I think of my city, which is, 40,000 people. And human services is, I don't want to say it's a throwaway, but it's just a small piece of the budget. They just don't focus on.
And the select board has increased the commitment to that year. It was sort of steady at 450, and then they added 200,000 2 years ago to 650, and then the cannabis grants on top of that have come in. So, and that was 90,000 last year and 170,000 this year.
Great. Well, so I don't know if this can be broken out, but how much of that budget goes to senior related grants? Are there any, or?
Yes, so there are budgets to Meals on Wheels gets a grant. There is a legal services grant that in part supports free legal services for seniors. There is, and then of course the general Fairwinds and NAMI for to support, financially support private therapists. And then there's through the cannabis grant, it's Gosnold's partial outpatient program for addiction, and Fairwind's PRC peer coaching for recovery services are all available. And the Fairwinds grant subsidizes fee for service, sliding scale service fees. So for people who cannot afford therapeutic services, mental health services at Fairwinds, that grant supports them. And that's across all ages, as well as subsidizing appointments with psychiatrists for people who are uninsured or underinsured. So across the board, these programs are accessible to seniors as well.
And so how would they find out about them if they don't already know?
So if someone went to Fairwinds and sought services, it would be invisible to them that they were, if they were granted a sliding scale fee, that's the part of the grant. The grant supports part of that program, almost all of it, not quite all of it for Fairwinds. But so it wouldn't necessarily be transparent to them where the funding came from. It's just part of the program's back end financial support. But Meals on Wheels, it's direct support for that program, which is a senior program.
I'm just wondering whether people who might not approach Fairwinds because they don't think they can afford it might reach out knowing that, I mean, that there was a sliding scale for people who couldn't afford it. It's good to know that the money that comes in through the state goes to places where people go to get help. But if they don't go, then they can't get it.
Yeah.
It's always.
This is locally generated money.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, this is out of our local budget. This is money raised by the cannabis tax, which part of it stays local, and out of our annual budget, operating budget for the town.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big deal. It's just a big deal. It's just
It is a big deal.
Unusual among communities to see town dollars spent that way.
Yeah. So I guess to your point, Allison, people shouldn't hesitate to seek services, human services, mental health services, addiction services, because of their income, that there are these funding sources out there that support their being able to seek out and attain those services.
What I find when there are things being offered, for instance, the Council on Aging has a caregiver grant where people who are 60 or over can and are a primary caregiver for anybody, not even a senior, can apply for a $200 gift card for respite care. And it's, it's amazing how few people have applied. We have to give this money away by the end of May. So if anyone out there is a caregiver or knows somebody who is caring for anybody that is 60 years and, or older, that's the person who's doing the caregiving, call Laura Stewart at the Salt Marsh. And it's a first come, first served basis. That's all the criteria, but it's just sort of an example of something that's available that people either don't think that they qualify or are afraid to ask, or in some way feel that they shouldn't be the recipient. And, someone was saying the other day about silos and about how there are so many different silos and so many different resources that probably share information between them. But I think that a lot of people don't think that the programs are for them. That's a problem, I think, on Nantucket.
So may I segue into another project of mine?
Please.
Okay. So the other big thing I've been working on this year is the establishment of a new nonprofit organization. And we just got our determination letter today that we qualify as a 501c3 organization. It's called the Nantucket Resource Partnership. And our whole purpose, Allison, is to do exactly what you're talking about. It is to bring all of the human service agencies and programs in under a partnership arrangement. And we're combining partnership management with a new technology platform that will allow people to be referred into the platform and referred out to their needed services, regardless of where those services come from or what they are. Now, that's the dream. We starting with food security. So we are now, the platform is live and we have our first agencies referring people in. We're working with the community school to access families through the school system who are in need of food support. And they fill out a questionnaire with a counselor at the community school. Susan Richards is doing the intake into the platform. And then the platform refers them out to whatever food security programs on island are available to them based on their answers to the questionnaire. So we have the food pantry, the Nourishing Nantucket, which was formerly called the Pip and Anchor Food Box Program, which is a fresh box of produce that is now called Nourishing Nantucket, and we at NRP are running that program with Pip and Anchor as our partners. And the St. Paul's Cooked Meals Program, which was born out of COVID, we're looking to grow that program beyond the number of meals they've been doing once a week. We are looking for funding to grow that into a larger program that will be another food security provider in this program. So we're starting to build the system, working food security first, and then we'll add additional services. And eventually the dream is that any individual who's struggling would tell their story once, be brought into the platform, and then being given a menu of resources that are available to them from which they can pick, and they would be referred to those programs. And then the programs would do an intake into their individual programs. And so the idea is to make it as easy as possible to access services, and also move beyond the struggle people have about sharing their story when they're in a stressful situation, or how many times do you have to tell your income and your, all of that, to be able to do that once and then know what services are available.
What a notion. Tell your story once.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is very active in the St. Vincent de Paul Society in our community. There's a lot of outreach stuff. She finds herself there constantly advocating to any number of ABCD agencies and groups, and it's always it's like when you're in the hospital and you're yet again going through your symptoms and stuff. But it's sometimes embarrassing because there are people, they're short on resources. What a wonderful concept.
Well,
sorry, I digress, but
yeah, no, I mean, that is the whole point. And it's been really interesting because this conversation about even at the contract review level, the contract review committee has been encouraging better collaboration and integration among human service providers, right? But we have to recognize that individual programs are developed to meet a human service need. That's their area of expertise. And what became clear last fall when a group of human service providers gathered around this question of food security is everybody, these organizations know the benefit of integration and collaboration. They don't have the human resources or the financial resources to figure out how to achieve it. And that's what NRP really is being created to do. And so, yeah, I mean, we're partnered with the Community Foundation, have been partnered with the Community Foundation for donations. We will be morphing that now that we have our 501c3 access or determination to do fundraising, direct fundraising out in the community. We're very, very excited. It's a big project, but the integration of technology along with people will make it easier for the providers to provide the service that they're trained to provide and not have to spend a lot of time cross-referring to other agencies on behalf of their clients. And
Wow.
that's, as I keep calling it, the big dream.
The big dream. So if you were, and again, not only seniors watch this show, but it can be a resource for seniors. And it's always good to know who you, I mean, what is it, food insecurity, for instance? I mean, how do you qualify? What if you, so you get Meals on Wheels. Does that mean you can get anything else? It's just, how do you access?
So right now, the system will be with referral partners. So Meals on Wheels, as a program, has signed on to be both a food service provider, in other words, a program that feeds people, and a referral partner. So when someone calls Meals on Wheels and gets the intake to Meals on Wheels is done, the folks at Meals on Wheels will be able to fill out the platform at NRP, and then that person can be referred to other programs. Do they qualify for food pantry? Do they need additional cooked meals through a program like St. Paul's? And the beauty of this is that, so they're working with a trusted relationship they already have with some human service provider at this point. We're not going to be doing direct intake from the community. That's a big technological challenge. We'll probably get there down the road, but for now, having folks come in through, so if they're connected with one agency, they're now going to get access to other food security programs and be able to be onboarded to those programs. And it's just really, I think of it as this really three-dimensional web of connection to all the services someone might need. And if it changes over time, they can connect back into the system, if there's a short-term need. And I think when you ask what is food insecurity, we often think about it as a financial need, but Meals on Wheels is a program that shows that food security is not just a financial need. Does a person have transportation? Do they have cooking facilities? Are they physically able to cook for themselves? So someone could have plenty of financial assets, but they have arthritis and can't chop and cut, or they have dementia and they shouldn't be cooking in their kitchen on their own. There are many reasons people experience food insecurity, and they're not always financial. And I think helping remove the stigma around that as well. You could have had surgery and be unable to drive for 8 weeks. That makes you food insecure for 8 weeks. Can we connect you with a program for that time frame? That kind of thing.
And so that would be through Elder Services. I'm just wondering what other portals there are if you don't get Meals on Wheels. Because I think that the outreach to people who need, the help needs to come from more than necessarily one place. So
Ultimately, the goal is for every human service provider to be linked into this platform. So if you go to Saltmarsh Center for a health activity or an exercise class, that they would be able to help you enroll in the platform. We're really just starting out. We're
Yeah.
still building out the platform and onboarding. We're in the very early stages, and this is what we hear in the community. Well, can these people do it? Can we do it? When do we get? Everybody's excited about this, and I want to manage expectations around the pace at which we'll roll out, and frankly, to some extent, that will rely on funding. Us getting funding to pay our tech partners to do the work, to bring on more programs and to iterate the technology so that it works for all the existing programs that are out there to participate. And we are bringing on an executive director July 1st. Tracy Nichols will be moving over from the community school to run NRP. And we'll be also hopefully hiring an outreach coordinator who will be bilingual. Will be the criteria. We're going to make sure that they are bilingual, and they will be then going out in the community and trying to connect with people who need to be referred into the programs. So,
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Just-
yeah,
I think I
it's
read
very
something about
exciting.
that starting to happen, but you just heard today that you got
Literally, the letter is in the
Oh,
mailbox
The
today.
magic letter.
Yeah,
Magic
Yeah.
IRS.
congratulations. So what a big day for you, the Frank and Mary show. And
So, yeah, two memorable occasions.
you
Here's my
didn't know you
friend.
were breaking news.
So,
yeah,
so
Sure.
Brooke,
Current's gonna
this
be
is-
all over this.
this has been terrific. My job on this kind of side screen is to also kind of every once in a while look down and look at the time.
Yep.
And it's been really fascinating. And so we've used all of our time. So Allison, once again, thank you for doing, Allison always does this. She brings these folks on, and I'm like, who is this again? And it's like this is fascinating thing. This is just wonderful. It's just wonderful. So anyway, Brooke, it was wonderful to meet you. A real pleasure. Allison, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
To the folks who are watching, I think you really need to know this. This is just this amazing thing that is happening, both in terms of services that you may need and in terms of the support that they may need in order to make sure that this happens.
And we do have a website. It is thenrp.org. So you can read all about us.
thenrp.org.
Yep.
And Brooke, if people have questions directed to you, do you want to share your new select board email address so they can, if they feel comfortable reaching out to you directly, they can?
Absolutely. So I am B as in boy, MOHR, my last name, at nantucket-ma.gov.
Great. And
Great.
we can ask Katie O'Connor from NCTV to put that as a banner. So if people want to be looking at those, for both of those emails, for both.
Yeah.
Of those.
And for my NRP work, it's just brooke@thenrp.org.
Great. Brooke, thank you
Great.
so much. We
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Allison, thanks again for doing this. This is just wonderful. Folks, this is just great information. It's yet another innovative program to reflect what is special about Nantucket, the kind of cohesiveness of Nantucket. So thank you for watching. If you need the services, talk to them. If you want to help them provide those services, also talk to them. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. Thank you very much.